I'd been in my new place for about 2 weeks, a tidy little craftsman on the east side with creaky floors, old radiators, and a porch swing I'd already grown attached to. I'd moved in for a fresh start, something quieter. After my last relationship ended with a note on the counter and a half-packed suitcase, I figured it was time for fewer arguments and better bandwidth. The internet, however, still hadn't been properly installed. After 2 missed appointments and 1 no-show tech, I was 1 week hotspot away from snapping when I heard a knock on the door. When I opened it, I was expecting a kid with a clipboard and an attitude. What I got was him. Mid-30s, maybe early 40s. Beard, brown skin, strong shoulders, and a navy utility shirt with the sleeves half pushed up. Confident eyes, kind smile. A little scruffy, like he hadn't shaved in a few days but could still wear it well. The patch on his shirt said, Luis, and the moment our eyes met, something unspoken passed between us, quiet, electric, like a hum beneath the surface. Hey, he said, adjusting the tool bag on his shoulder. Sorry for the delays. You're my last one today. You're already my favorite, I said without thinking. He smirked, and I stepped aside to let him in. He walked through the entryway like he'd been there before, comfortable, at ease, surveying the space not just with a technician's eye, but like he was mapping it, feeling its rhythm. As he crouched near the wall panel, pulling cords and muttering things like they never finished the damn fiber routing, I watched the way his shirt pulled across his back, the way his arms flexed without effort. I wasn't trying to ogle. It was just happening. You just move in? He asked, still focused on the panel. Yeah, place is charm. And no Wi-Fi. So I'm only half a person. He chuckled and looked up. You're lucky. Some people go months without a decent signal. God, don't say that. I already talked to my toaster just to feel seen. Luis laughed, full and real. Well, hopefully I can get you reconnected. In more ways than one. There was a moment after he said it, brief, weightless, but real, where we both clocked that the line hung heavier than he meant it to. Or maybe exactly how he meant it. He finished the wiring quickly, fast hands, efficient movements, a quiet confidence I admired. When he stood and wiped his hands on a cloth, his eyes lingered on me for a beat longer than necessary. You work from home? He asked. Sometimes. Mostly I write. Freelance stuff. And the occasional deep, brooding journal entry I'll never show anyone. He raised an eyebrow. Deep and brooding? That sounds familiar. I tilted my head. Writer too? He shook his head. No, but I've dated a few. Oh, yeah. You guys love to overthink everything. And you flirt with metaphors. That made me smile. You saying I'm flirting? He leaned against the wall, folded his arms. I didn't say that. But you didn't say you're not. He didn't answer. Just looked at me in a way that said he wasn't sure whether to step back or closer. I didn't press it. But I felt it. The shift. That slow, unspoken moment when 2 people realize they've stepped past the line of casual and into something a little warmer, a little riskier. As he packed up, he asked for the Wi-Fi password to test the connection. I walked him through it, leaning in beside him at the laptop, our shoulders barely brushing. The warmth of his arm next to mine sent a ripple through me that I tried not to show. It's working, he said, tapping a few keys. You're online. Fully connected. The way he said it, low, deliberate, I still on me, made the words land differently. And I swear, he was waiting for me to say something, to do something. But I hesitated. He stood, tool bag over his shoulder again, and nodded toward the door. If anything goes out, or if you need anything reconfigured. I live just across the river. You can ask for me. Luis. Yeah. I followed him to the porch. He paused at the steps, turned to face me. You've got a nice place. Quiet. I like quiet. He nodded slowly. Me too. And then he was gone. But long after he left, the place didn't feel so quiet anymore. It felt wired. I didn't stop thinking about Luis for the rest of the night. It wasn't just the way he looked, though. Yeah, he was absolutely my type. It was the way he carried himself. The ease. The warmth. The way he looked at me when he said, fully connected, like he knew exactly what he was doing. Like it was a message he was waiting to see if I'd return. I didn't know if I should reach out. What was I supposed to say? Hey, thanks for fixing my router. Want to mess up my bed next? No, I wasn't that bold anymore. Or maybe I never had been. So I didn't do anything. 3 days passed. Work, emails, half-finished articles I couldn't focus on. I caught myself glancing at the door every time I passed it, as if he'd show up again by magic. I even checked my internet more often than necessary, pretending maybe something would go wrong just enough to justify a follow-up call. And then it did. Or maybe I made it. But either way, the signal dropped around noon on Friday. I waited 15 minutes, ran diagnostics, reset the modem twice, and then called. The dispatch woman said they could send someone out the next day. When I asked, casually, if Luis was available, she paused. Actually, she said, he's on call this weekend. Could be him. When he knocked, I already knew it was him. I opened the door and tried to play it cool, but the smile on his face told me he wasn't surprised either. You break it just to see me again? He asked, walking in like he'd been invited, already scanning the living room with those calm, steady eyes. I shrugged. I plead the fifth. He set his bag down by the router and crouched beside it. You did something, didn't you? Maybe I got lonely. He looked up then slow, focused, and said, so did I. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just playful banter. He wasn't testing me. He wasn't flirting for sport. This was something else, something that sat deeper, more vulnerable, like we'd both grown tired of pretending we weren't aching for more than quick glances and quiet exits. He checked the cables, tightened a few connections. But I couldn't focus on what he was doing. Not with the way his body moved, the way his shirt clung to his back as he bent over, the quiet confidence of a man who didn't apologize for how he filled a room. And then, just as I was about to offer him water or coffee or something just to break the tension, he stood, turned toward me, and said, there's nothing wrong with your signal. I know. We stared at each other for a long second. And then I took a step closer. You knew I'd call, didn't you? I hoped. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. So what now? His voice dropped, quiet but direct. Now I kiss you, unless you tell me not to. I didn't. He reached for me, slow, deliberate, and placed one hand against my jaw, the rough of his palm grounding me in a way that sent a hum down my spine. His mouth met mine in a kiss that wasn't tentative, but wasn't rushed either. Warm, focused, real. He kissed like a man who meant it, like someone who wasn't trying to prove anything, just feel something. And I kissed him back like I'd been waiting for someone who saw me past the small talk, past the flirting, into the part of me that had grown tired of being looked at but never really held. His other hand settled at the small of my back, pulling me in. My fingers curled into the collar of his shirt. I felt his breath catch when I kissed him harder, deeper, like I wanted to write something permanent into his skin. We didn't say a word as we moved through the living room, toward the hallway, toward the bedroom. His hands found their way under my shirt, brushing across my stomach, up my sides. My breath hitched as he pushed the fabric up, slowly, pressing his lips against my chest, my neck. I pulled him close, felt his weight against me, the press of his hips, the promise of more. We undressed each other with care, not clumsy, not rushed. My shirt, then his. My jeans. His belt. Each step slower than the last, like we didn't want to break whatever had taken root between us. We didn't say, let's do this. We didn't need to. What we did say, with our hands, our mouths, our bodies pressed together in the warm hush of late afternoon, was yes to being seen, to being touched, to letting go of the quiet. And when we finally lay side by side, tangled in each other's limbs, breath slowing, sweat drying, he turned to me and said, I wasn't sure you'd call. I didn't have a choice, I said. Something wasn't working right. He smiled. It is now. I always thought that kind of connection, real, electric, warm all the way down, only happened in younger years or in the middle of some wild summer fling. Not in my bedroom at 46 with a man I'd met through a customer service request. But there we were, still tangled in my sheets an hour later, Luis on his side, head propped on one hand, just looking at me like I was something worth learning. His fingers traced small shapes on my arm as the light shifted across the ceiling. You always like this with your clients? I asked, teasing. He smirked. Only the ones who flirt back. I wasn't flirting. He laughed, low and real. You were. And yeah, maybe I was. But it wasn't just flirting. There was something different here, something quieter. Slower. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. We spent the rest of the afternoon like we didn't owe the world anything. We talked. Ordered pizza. Sat cross-legged on the living room floor eating greasy slices off napkins. I learned he grew up just outside the city, had a younger brother who lived in Chicago, and used to play guitar before he got too busy fixing other people's problems for a living. You ever think about doing something else? I asked. He leaned back on his elbows, looking at the ceiling. Sometimes. But most of the time, I like helping people. I like the quiet, one-on-one part of it. I like that it's hands-on. I can walk in, fix something, leave it better than I found it. I stared at him for a second too long. You ever fix something and not want to leave? He looked at me, his expression softer now. Yeah, like right now. That stuck with me. Not because it was romantic, but because he said it so simply, so matter of fact. Like he wasn't trying to impress me, or charm me, or lock anything down. He just meant it. That night, when he stood at the door, his bag slung over his shoulder, he didn't ask if he could stay. He didn't push. He just looked at me for a long, quiet second and said, I don't want this to be a one-off. But I also don't want to assume. I don't either, I said. But I'm not looking for a hookup. I've done that. A lot. And it never leaves anything that lasts. He nodded. Same. I'd like to see where this goes, I added. No pressure. No scripts. He smiled, the kind of smile that starts in the corner of the mouth and moves all the way to the eyes. Okay then. We'll see. And then he leaned in, slow, soft, no hunger this time, just warmth, and kissed me like he'd be back soon. No question. After he left, the apartment felt different. Not because it was emptier, but because it still carried him. His scent on the sheets, the echo of his laugh in the hallway, the warmth of his mouth still lingering on mine. I didn't turn on the TV, didn't put on music. I just sat in the quiet and let myself feel it. The realness of it, the slowness, the possibility. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't obsession. It was the beginning of something that didn't need a label yet, just a place to live. We started seeing each other a few times a week, nothing too defined, no declarations, no pressure. Just two men with a good reason to keep crossing paths. Sometimes he'd come over after work, smelling faintly of sweat and metal and spring air, and we'd sit on the couch drinking beer straight from the bottle. Other nights, I'd meet him on his side of town, at this little bar that always played Stevie Wonder and served the crispiest wings I'd ever had. He wasn't a big talker about feelings, not at first. But he paid attention. He remembered how I took my coffee, noted the fact that I always sat facing the door, like some leftover habit from a past breakup that left me skittish. He'd let his knee bump mine under the table and wouldn't pull it away. And I, in turn, learned that when he rubbed his jaw while listening, it meant he was holding something back. When he checked his phone twice in a row, it meant his thoughts were somewhere deeper. We hadn't talked about sex since that first night, not directly. But it hung in the air between us in the way we touched, in the long kisses before he left, in the way his hands would rest low on my waist when he pulled me in, fingertips pressing gently against the edge of skin under my shirt. And then, one Thursday night, it shifted again. He'd come over late, past 10, after working overtime. I had the porch light on, music low, a blanket over my lap and a half-drunk glass of wine by my side. He stepped inside without knocking, like he belonged there, and kissed me the moment the door closed. It wasn't rushed, wasn't polite. It was heavy, grounded, like he'd spent all day holding it in. He led me to the bedroom, no words needed, and we undressed each other without urgency. This wasn't a replay of that first time. It was something deeper now, something that took its time. He touched my chest, my stomach, kissed every inch he uncovered like it was the first time he'd seen it. His hands memorized me. My hands held him like I already knew he'd stay. We didn't just fall into bed. We built something there. When he slid over me, warm and solid and close, and kissed me with that aching intensity, I felt something in me unlock, something I hadn't realized I'd bolted down after years of settling, a feeling halfway held. That night, we made love. Not a quick, fiery tumble in the dark. No games. No need to perform. Just connection. Every touch slow and deliberate. Every kiss deep. Every whispered, yeah, or right there, a step further into something safe, something real. And when it was over, when our bodies were slick and breathless and still humming, he didn't roll away. He didn't leave. He curled into me, held me like a man who wasn't going anywhere. In the dark, his voice broke the silence. You feel good. So do you. I mean, not just physically. I turned my head to look at him. His eyes were open, even in the dark. Yeah. He nodded against the pillow. You're different. How? You don't rush. You don't pretend. It's like, you're just here. With me. I am. He exhaled, and I felt the way his whole body settled. That's new for me. I kissed his shoulder. Let's not make it rare. And we lay like that for a long time, his leg over mine, my fingers in his hair, our breath in sync. The city buzzed outside the windows, but inside, we were still. I didn't need to define what we were. Not yet. But I knew we were real. And that was enough. I didn't hear from him for 3 days. No calls. No texts. Not even a read receipt on the dumb meme I sent. Just enough silence to make my brain start pacing. I told myself not to overreact, not to read too deeply into it. People get busy. People get tired. But when you've been ghosted before, when you've done the late-night scrolling through old texts and reread your own excitement like some pathetic diary entry, your gut doesn't give you the benefit of the doubt. I waited. Then I waited longer. And then on day 4, just when I had started to talk myself down from the cliff, my phone buzzed. Hey, can I come by? 10 minutes later, he was at my door. He looked like hell. Still beautiful, still broad-shouldered and quietly solid. But there was something in his face that wasn't there before. Something pulled tight across his brow, something tired. Come in, I said softly, stepping aside. He didn't touch me right away. Didn't kiss me. He just walked into the kitchen and stood there for a second like he was gathering pieces of himself off the floor. I wasn't ignoring you, he said. I nodded. Okay. My mom's sick. The words landed between us like a dropped glass, quiet, sudden, shattering in their own way. Shit. Luis. I'm sorry. He nodded, jaw working. It's not new. It's just worse now. And I didn't know how to explain why I disappeared, so I didn't. I stepped forward then, slow, careful, like I was approaching a man standing on the edge of something steep. I placed my hand on his back, right between his shoulder blades. He didn't flinch. He let out a breath, long and low, and leaned into my touch. You don't have to carry that alone, I said. I've never had anyone offer to carry it with me. Well, I said, pulling him gently toward me, I'm offering. That night, we didn't have sex. We didn't even kiss. He laid on the couch with his head in my lap while I stroked his hair in slow circles and asked him questions about her. What she used to cook when he was sick. The songs she sang off-key. The way she used to clap at every school recital, even when he messed up. His voice cracked only once, and he didn't apologize for it. And I didn't look away. That was more intimate than anything we'd done. Later, I made him tea. We sat in silence, and then he spoke again. I'm not good at this. At what? This. Letting someone in. Letting them see the parts one don't usually hand out. I leaned forward and took his hand. I'm not asking for all of you at once, I said. But let me be here when you're ready. He looked at me for a long time. I want to be. Ready, I mean. You don't have to want it. Just let it happen. That night, he fell asleep in my bed again, not with fire or need or bodies tangled up in heat, but with his back to my chest, my arm draped over his side, and his fingers holding mine under the sheets like he needed that contact to stay anchored. I kissed the back of his neck and whispered, still connected. And I felt him smile in the dark. It wasn't dramatic, the way we settled into each other. No grand speech. No sudden declarations. Just the slow layering of trust, like stacking warm towels, one after another, until you realize you're covered, held, safe. Luis started coming over without needing a reason. He'd show up with coffee or fresh cables or just that quiet look he got when he didn't want to be alone. I'd ask how he was doing, and he'd answer honestly, sometimes with words, sometimes with a sigh as he collapsed into my arms, letting the weight of the day dissolve between us. He brought his toothbrush over one night. Didn't say anything, just tucked it into the side of the cup on my bathroom counter like it had always belonged there. A week later, he added socks to my dresser. Then a hoodie. Then a bottle of hot sauce he insisted my pantry had been disrespectfully missing. It wasn't fast. It was steady. One night, after dinner, we were sitting on the porch swing, a blanket over our legs, wine in hand, and I realized this was it. Not just dating. Not just lust or the thrill of newness. This was partnership. I never thought this would happen like this, I said, watching the sky darken in slow gradients. Like what? He asked, turning slightly toward me. Quietly. Kindly. In my 40s. After I'd already convinced myself I was better off alone. He reached out and touched my knee, squeezing gently. You're not alone. I looked at him. And you. He leaned in and kissed me, soft and slow, his thumb brushing my cheek like he was confirming I was real. I haven't felt alone since the day I walked into your house. We didn't say much after that. We didn't need to. We made love later, in the kind of way that doesn't burn, it glows. Slow touches, lips trailing down skin not to claim, but to honor. We kissed like people who knew how to take their time, who didn't need to chase the high, because we were already living in it. When we fell asleep that night, my head on his chest, his fingers playing lazy circles on my back, I realized something. What started as a weak signal turned into something solid, strong, steady. I wasn't buffering anymore. I was here, present, connected, fully. Have you ever met someone by accident and felt everything shift? Tell me in the comments. Because sometimes the strongest connections come when we're not even looking for them.